Good day and welcome to lesson number 7, Writing a Position Paper. For this lesson, we will have the following objectives. At the end of this lesson, you will be able to define position papers, determine the use for position papers, and distinguish the different parts of a position paper. Let's begin with objective number 1. How do we define position papers? According to Fleming, a position paper is one where an author chooses a side on a particular topic and builds up a case for your opinion or your position. Now, this building up of the case will entail the use of facts and statistics to convince the readers that the author's position on the matter is the best one. Now, on the other hand, Merriam-Webster gave a different understanding about position paper. For them, a position paper is a detailed report that recommends a course of action on a particular issue. But for the purpose of this lesson, we will be merging these definitions and understand a position paper as one that presents a side or an author's side on a particular topic, as well as the recommended action regarding that side. So why do we write position papers? Position papers are written for the purpose of generating support regarding a particular stand or idea, and that is according to Xavier.edu in 2020, and to determine how your stance is related to the arguments of others, whether or not other people agree with your arguments or not. And this is according to CSU also in 2020. So combining these two definitions, we come to the conclusion that a position paper is written to generate support and also to see whether there are other people who agree with your points or opinions or not. So what are the components of a position paper? Now, there are 3 main components, and we begin with the introduction, where you are going to present the issue at hand and discuss its background. And not only that, this is also where you place your thesis statement, your stand on the matter. And this is followed by the explanation of your stand, which is found in the body of the position paper. This is where you are going to state your main arguments and to give your sufficient evidence for each argument, which may come in the form of statistical data, interviews with experts, and or testimonies. Now, on the other hand, you're also going to provide counter arguments against the possible weaknesses of the arguments that you have given. This is so we are going to cover as much basis as we can in the discussion of your stand regarding the topic or the issue that you have selected. Lastly, we have your conclusion, where you are going to restate your position about the issue and your main arguments supporting your position. Also, this is where your suggested course of action is going to be written. Okay, so at the end of that paper, you can close using a powerful statement such as a quotation, a challenge, or even a hanging question, which the readers have to answer on their own as a form of reflection. So, while writing your position papers, here are a few guidelines that you can follow. First, you have to make sure that you choose an issue because your position paper is grounded on that issue. Now, when choosing one, keep the following guidelines in mind. 1. Begin the writing process by conducting an in-depth research on the issue. Read as much material as you can. You cannot write an effective position paper if you do not have sufficient knowledge about the topic that you are going to write about. Second, make sure that you are going to define unfamiliar terms when you first mention them. Make sure that your readers understand how you are going to approach certain terminologies. Yes, You may be able to understand some of the complicated words, but your readers may not be able to do that. So you have to explain it to them at the onset. Next, you have to be aware of the various positions about the issue and explain and analyze them objectively. They say that there are two faces to a coin, and there are two ways of looking at an issue. One is whether you are in favor of that issue or the pro side. The other one is on the negative, the opposition. So you have to consider that to every issue, there might be two different standpoints. You cannot claim that your standpoint is the only one that is correct. No. Consider that there are two possible sides, but your job is to prove why your standpoint is better than the other. Next, you have to reflect on your position and identify its weaknesses. Again, while you are analyzing the various positions, you have to be able to identify the weaknesses and strengths of that position. That way you can make a sound decision whether or not you agree with the topic or whether you disagree with it. Next, when you give your opinions, it is best that you cite valid and reliable sources to establish the credibility of your arguments. When you provide your opinions alone, your position paper might sound too opinionated and others might claim it as hearsay. So, to maintain objectivity and to ensure the validity and the substance of your position paper, you have to use and cite valid and reliable sources to substantiate, to deepen, and to strengthen the arguments that you have given in your position paper. Next, you have to view the issue in different perspectives so you can present a unique approach. In layman's terms, or sometime in common language, you have to think outside the box. Okay, so you cannot simply look at it from a single perspective. Instead, look at it from multiple vantage points for you to determine which of those perspectives would best fit your position paper. Next, you have to limit your position paper to 2 pages. No one wants to read a long-winded paper. And the tendency is when you write a paper that is too long, chances are your arguments are going to repeat and you'd be beating around the bush. So it's best that you keep your position paper to a bare minimum, about 2 pages, introduction, body, and conclusion. Next, you analyze your target readers and align your arguments to their beliefs, their needs, their interests, and motivations. Again, a position paper is written for you to gather support for your stand. You have to do that by making sure that you know what your readers' interests and motivations are, what their belief systems are. If you are going to write a position paper that goes against the beliefs of the majority, then the purpose of your position paper is lost. You cannot gather support because your analysis of your readers is not built on solid ground. So make sure that you have a working understanding of the kind of readers that you have for your position paper. And the last guideline is you summarize the other side's counter arguments and use of various evidence and data for you to be able to refuse or even to refute those ideas. What does that mean? It means that you're going to preempt what the other side might be thinking. If you say yes to a particular topic, then you have to list down all the possible arguments of the people who might say no. That way, you can look for the weaknesses of their arguments and use those weaknesses to improve your arguments. So, to give you an idea, again, I always start with an outline. And to give you an idea how an outline for a position paper will look like, this is my suggestion. As you can see, I'm making use of the PREP method. Point, reason, example, point. Okay, so that way I get to organize my thoughts and I get to signpost the points made in the position paper. So we begin with the topic, followed by the stand, and then reason 1, reason 2, reason 3. Lastly, you have your suggested action. That's for paragraph 1. Okay, for paragraph 2, paragraph 3, and paragraph 4, we are going to use this outline. We begin with reason 1 as the first sentence, followed by the explanation for reason 1, an example for reason 1, a counter argument for that reason, and a supporting evidence which will enhance reason 1 or negate the counter argument. So we will do that for every single reason. Okay, so as you can see, I used reason 1 as the main idea for the second paragraph. The same goes for reason 2. Reason 2 is the main idea for paragraph 3, and reason 3 is the main idea for paragraph 4. Okay, so the last paragraph or the conclusion is the suggested action, followed by the explanation why that is the suggested action, what are the possible weaknesses of the suggested action, and the strong points of the suggested action. If you want to read through the entire outline, you may pause this video for you to get a more in-depth opportunity to go over the components of the outline format. Okay, so that being said, I believe we have achieved the following objectives today. We have defined position papers, we have determined the use for position papers, and we have distinguished the different parts of a position paper. And that being said, that concludes our lesson for today. This is Sir Dardar wishing everyone a great day ahead. Class dismissed.